cleaners. We've got a couple of cleaners over here as well. What when did the need for firewood cleaners start to kind of come up?
And I think there again, I think we were the first ones to ever build cleaners. And when we first built them, I couldn't get anybody interested in buying them. And my whole reasoning was exactly why they do it now was you and I can take one of those machines and we can go out and split 500,000 cord of wood for the season, just you and me. It's easy, you know. Well, then all of a sudden you got to load all that wood. Now you and I can't do this a cord at a time, and deliveries, there's not enough time in a day for us to hand throw that, and we start scooping it up, we're getting all this dirt. And from talking to customers, and we always, you know, we'd use 2 or 3 semi-load a year, 3 or 4, just to heat our shop, big outdoor furnace. And then we sold a lot of wood just because we had it. And so it was, you know, it was becoming really obvious, man, how do you handle this? What do you do with it? You know? And so then when we started building cleaners, it was like, well, this is easy now. You know, you go out and scoop up, it just looks like a pile of bark and dump in there, and 2 or 3 pieces of firewood come out and all the crap falls through that you would have never got before.
Right.
You know? And
right.
that was, you know, because we have customers call and say, okay, I got this huge pile of firewood. Now what do I do with it? You know, I can't physically get all this done, you know? And so that was the big reason. Again, just a need, you know?
Yeah. And again, kudos on good design. So we can run it right from a elevator, conveyor, stacker right in, or this is an 8-foot wide feed chute. So you could just take your standard skid loader bucket or anything like that and just drop it in that way as well. And you guys have it where we have self-contained units where there's an engine on it, and even a 12-foot conveyor on the front, or our basic cleaner. This seems to be, so far with my experience, one of the most popular
and I love how you redesigned the chute a little bit. That's a lot nicer.
Made a few small tweaks, and but again, a robust design. And why the tumbler over some of the disc cleaners?
Well, again, in having the logging, sawmilling background, Dad used to have a lot of whole tree chippers, and we had disc cleaners. And so that was one of the first things we played with, was a disc cleaner. And it was a disc cleaner for wood chips, takes the big pieces out and then it re-chips them, where the pieces falling through are what you want, kind of the opposite of what you're doing with the firewood. So we started running some firewood through it, and messing with that. And the trouble was the discs would just always seem to plug. They would get, and there was so much mechanical stuff to it. Like you gotta put a roller every so many inches, and every roller has 2 bearings. Every roller has 2 sprockets, and now you can hook up with one and run a serpentine.
Sure.
And so that's what a lot of people are doing. And now you make this, if it's only 10 feet long, you've got all this, and when you dump it in there, you dump the wood right on what's trying to clean it. So it just doesn't, so we messed with that. We didn't like it. The other thing is the tumbler system. People get into, you know, inclement weather, and you go out there and there's snow and ice in your wood, you dump it in here and it'll just beat it all apart and comes out a lot better than one of those disc cleaners. I'm not saying a disc cleaner doesn't have its place, but in those situations, that doesn't work very well.
I have zero experience with disc cleaners and screeners.
Yeah.
Besides watching them.
Yeah.
And with this, the drum style, you can, as you were kind of saying, you can adjust the height. Usually we keep about a 4-degree angle is about the right angle for just a constant float. But if you wanted to drop this down to 2 or 3 degrees, it will stay in there longer. And the tumbling action, I think, absolutely beats up the wood a lot more than just kind of bouncing around. Again, from my ignorant or limited experience, it seems like this is going to do a much better job.
Well, one of the things you notice too, as it tumbles, the wood starts to straighten out, and so do the pieces you want gone, and gives them a place to fall.
Yeah.
And we used to have, they call them vibrating conveyors that fed wood chippers and in sawmills and stuff. And so we played with those, thinking, we could put a graded bottom in that and shake the wood. Well, again, you can't. It just doesn't work this good.
Yeah.
They're real slow, and you could have sloped it. You could do different things, but to us, every time we just kept coming back to tumbling.
It does seem, and I've played around with this one quite a bit. You can have that lower angle, and as wood keeps coming in and keeps piling in, it's just going to automatically force it out. Even if it wants to stay in here and just tumble, but as you keep adding to it, it will just naturally force it out.
Yeah. And
really, you could, make it as fast or as slow as you wanted to, just by adjusting
changing the angle. And some guys they'll get them and they'll say, well, I can't clean a semi-load of wood in an hour. Well, no, you can't. It's a process. If you want your wood clean, it's just like if you want your wood split, it's a process. It takes a little time. I mean, they're fast, but you're going to take a couple hours to fill a semi probably. But I still think they're better. Those disc cleaners are fast, but you watch them and there's a lot of time. There's a lot of fines and sawdust and stuff coming right out with the firewood because it's on top of it as it's going down and it doesn't turn the wood over.
We'll get another debate going here. On which ones.
And I say, the disc cleaners have their place, but if you really want to clean your wood, there's not a lot of debate. You got to tumble.
I don't know. Yeah. We'll get it started. We'll hear from everyone.
And like I say, there's you can get by or you can do it that way or do it the right way.
The other thing, again, simplicity. When I look at this, right? It's simple. These never come up. It seems like used either. They just work. They're robust. There's not a lot. Not a lot to go wrong. You got a simple motor. You got your chain over that. If
same motor that's on the conveyor, on the deck, on the they are there.
And then the adjustability, right? We can go up another 3 foot up in the air too, if you really want to have a big clean out area, or depending on what your setup is. So the adjustability on this, and you've made these stationary without tires, and
yes,
and that's again very easy to do. You could put it 20 feet up in the air if you really wanted to.
We did that. We've made them not 20, but we used to make those bars so they would go up high enough. They would drive their skid steer underneath it, to clean it out.
And people have asked chutes and guards and all of that, and I said we could do about anything, or even putting a conveyor underneath there and channeling that. It seems like, in my limited experience, if we did it for one person, it's not going to make it right for the next person. And the framework is all here. It's easily done. And I've talked with a number of guys of, let's get some plywood. If this is something that you really think you're going to want to do, and start with some plywood, see what works, what doesn't work. And
we actually did that with a few where we made some sides and like a 12-foot attached, hung it here, and it'd slide in and run it off the same. And so, you can do all that, but then the next guy doesn't want it.
Or you're going to change your setup, because I've seen a number of customers have called in and they start with the smaller processor and they get with the bigger one and a bigger one. Their setups change, their wood yards change. So you start adding all of this metal that's welded on there, and now you're kind of locked into something.
Well, at home when I clean it, I dump I dump it in, and then I just watch that with the skid steer. And as that feel, I just every now and then take a scoop, take it over to the trash pile, and I feed it. So the way I got set up, I got my wood pile and I got my trash pile. I'm not making any extra trips to keep the debris cleaned out. I dump and I come over here and get a scoop, go dump it, get another, So and so if you push it out that side too far, well, then you go around the other side next time. So it does, it piles up, but it does work pretty good just scooping it up with a front end loader or skid steer,
Okay, and with your experience, and maybe we can start another debate, cleaning before or right after splitting, or after it's seasoned for a while? Pros, cons, benefits to either, both?
Well, it depends on your logs. If the logs are fresh cut or if they're old logs, in whether you're delivering it right away or whether you're going to stockpile it, let it season.
There's about 6 variables right there,
Yeah.
maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So.
So if I'm going to stockpile my wood and let it season, I'm going to clean it when I deliver it. Because, and everybody in the wood knows this, when you pile wood, it just makes debris. I don't know what it is about it. It's
your wood's going to shrink, the moisture's going to go away, the bark's going to loosen up, and
so I know we have guys that clean it when they put it in a pile because they say it dries better.
Sure.
And it probably does. You know, you get some of that debris out and it lets the air through better, you know.
Absolutely.
And so it just kind of depends on but you know, if you're taking it right to a customer from the machine, that's a nice time to clean it.
Right.
Because now they got good clean wood, and the beauty of it is you just go over that pile and just start loading in the truck, and none of this. And
yep,
those grapples we got, they work so nice for that, and then you're just machinery. There's no more back work. I mean, a lot of these guys will split this wood and they hand load because they don't want to take dirty wood to their customers.
Sure.
You know, I love splitting green wood, a lot better than old.
Yeah.
Especially your hickories and things like that, you know. And, you know, fresh logs are just like, they're the nicest to work with. But then they're the greenest.
Yep.
But, you know, old logs, and they're dried out a lot, but they are so messy, you know.
You do see a lot more fines and debris coming off of dried logs than you will off a green.
Yeah.
Just the way it's splintering and breaking up through the splitting process.
Yeah, the bark's falling off in the trough, and it's just, I like green wood a lot better.
All right. Okay, another thing for debate. When you're splitting wood by hand, top down is how you're going to want to split it by hand, right? If you've got a round, you're going to want your small at the top, big at the bottom, right?
Yeah, they always say that.
That's what they always say. That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard from the experience from the veterans, I guess. On the processor, have you ever experienced it splitting better? If narrow end versus big end?
The butt end, if you put the butt end in first, and I always put the butt ends, especially if they're long, because of the weight. So I can put a 24 or 26 footer on there sometimes. Then put the butt end down. If that butt's been sitting there in that weather for months and it's dry and it's hard, I'll turn it in for end and I'll split from the top down.
Yep.
But not so much because it's top down, because that end's dry.
Okay. But from a splitting going through a 12-way head or anything like that, have you noticed that you get less fines or more fines going one way or another?
No, and I've heard guys tell that story both ways. You want to split from the bottom up, and guys say you want to split from the top down. So
I know from loading the machine what you said, put the butt end, your heavy end towards your bar, just especially so you can get those longer logs on there. Yeah. And that weight. But
and then I don't know. I've never noticed, other than if you get a hard log and you've got that end is dry, it's amazing how hard that will get.
And just taking off 2 or 3 inches
does
makes
the same
a world
thing.
of difference. Yep. Well, Tim, thanks for coming in.
Well, sure.
And you're always still helping out on designs and improvements, I should say, not changes when we have questions. If there's anyone out there that has questions or wants to hear more, let us know. Like and subscribe. Let us know if you want to see more of Tim or Tony. We'll have Tony come out here and do a big long conversation as well. But thank you for all the work you've done with Blockbuster and the continued support. And
well, I'd like to thank Bazooka and you and everybody involved. I think everybody's doing a great job, keeping the name where it needs to be and helping their customers. I think you guys have just picked up where we left off, and I think that Bazooka gives Blockbuster a lot of opportunity to really grow in the future and do some of these neat improvements that we've talked about over the years that we didn't get to. And
we might even have some major changes coming. Maybe. So.
I do. I think it's in really good hands, and I want everybody to know that it's going to do just fine where it's at, and the people here seem to care, and they care about their customers just like we did, and and we still got Tony the rock star. So
The rock star, yeah.
Everything's good. I think it's a great future here. I really do.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
I am.
good.
So thank you much, and we'll see you soon.